Harper Reed, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I want to talk to you today about small businesses. How important is e-commerce for small businesses?
Well, I think it really depends on the business and kind of what the business is doing. But the thing about e-commerce, and I said the E long there, is because the E kind of stands for this internet that we live in. And almost all business is e-commerce in some way or another. I remember I was once offered to teach a class in e-marketing.
Right.
And I said to them, well, it seems like that would just be marketing, right? Like we're so far into this world that all commerce is e-commerce and all marketing is e-marketing and vice versa. And so I think that any business that we have, I mean, if you look at just PayPal, where I work, the penetration of PayPal, you talk to any person on the street, they know PayPal, but they may not know it from online. They may know it from interacting with a cafe or someone selling, handbags or a taxi. And it's very interesting. I like to measure technology by the drivers that I interact with, the taxi drivers and the Uber drivers. And you always ask them, what technology they know. And often they always know e-commerce providers.
Yeah.
And it's not because e-commerce is the biggest thing, it's just e-commerce is just commerce, which is one of the main reasons why we chose to call our product PayPal Commerce, because it's about powering a lot of the physical world, not just the E.
Sure. What about businesses who might not necessarily think of themselves as tech savvy?
They'll probably die.
Really? So say
Probably.
like the cafe next door?
Yeah, but if the thing is that the cafe next door will accidentally, they won't be able to compete.
Right.
But luckily, technology is getting easier and easier. And so I actually think that to willingly not use technology in your business is to make a very specific decision. And I think there's two outcomes. One, you won't be competitive and you'll probably fail. Or two, that will be your thing, right?
Yeah.
You'll be the anti-tech hub or whatever. And
Yeah.
I've definitely seen really neat coffee shops that are much more about the slow interaction, the slow time.
Yeah.
It's no phones, no laptops,
Yeah.
maybe reading.
They only accept cash.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting thing. And I saw a tweet from a friend recently who was at a bar, and he tweeted that he wondered if the bar accepted cash at all.
Right.
And I thought this was an interesting change. Like we talk about the graduation into a cashless society, but the opposite of that is also just as fascinating, right? Cash only, and it's like, what is the reaction to that? And a lot of times it's about fees, but what is it, the emotional reaction as well?
Sure, there's a fair bit of hesitancy to change and to kind of take on this new technology that seems a little bit scary, perhaps.
Correct.
Right. What about when it comes to staff? You've spoken before about, hiring and attracting great talent.
Yeah.
What are the keys for small businesses who might not have huge budgets?
I really think a lot of it has to do with passion. In many of the businesses that I've been involved with, whether they're small or big, one of the most important ways to keep the talent is to just make sure you have passion yourself, first of all. And then that passion hopefully is something that spreads to your employees and to the people you're hiring and even the potential people you're hiring. One of my favorite stories was we interviewed someone at Modest. This is obviously before we were acquired, and that person just didn't really work out. And it was mutual, we just didn't work out, but they recommended their friend interview with us.
Okay.
So it's kind of this thing where if you can show the passion that you have for the product and really describe it and just show that it's something that's going to be something big, then everyone will tell everyone, even the people you say no to.
Yeah. Do you always hire for culture?
That's a very complicated question because I think culture is something that people use as an excuse not to change, and I think it's kind of bullshit. And what I mean by that is, if it's a bunch of white dudes in a room and they call themselves a startup and they're like, oh no, that's not a culture fit, that often means they're a woman, a person of color, etc., and that's terrible.
Sure.
So I don't necessarily know if we hire for culture, we hire for, I would just say fit. And what I mean by that is someone that's going to work with us well and move us forward. And so sometimes that's someone that doesn't match the pattern. And so I think a lot about pattern matching and how to make sure that we don't necessarily fall into that, I don't know if it's a trick or whatever, just the trap of matching only people that look like myself. And by that I mean a white dude, not a dude with a ginger beard. But, and I think that's something that is actually very difficult. People fall into this a lot. They think culture is this really important thing, but for them, oftentimes it means ping pong tables and snacks. And for us, it means who's going to help us move forward. And sometimes that's a person that really has no college experience in computer science, or has only coded a little, or maybe they've coded a whole lot, but they're a high school dropout. You know, it's more about how are we going to work together to move forward, less about how much did you go to the same school as I did.
Sure. What about managing stress? Again, this is something that you've spoken about. For small business owners who kind of do have to do it all, what are your keys to managing stress?
How I think about it is it's like a sprint marathon. It's this terrible thing where you have to go every single day and you never get to turn off, but at the same time you have to take care of yourself, much like in a marathon where you know you're going to be doing it forever. And so much like any high performance sports or high performance anything, you really need to think about how are you taking care of yourself. And so I spend a lot of time, actually lately I've been thinking a lot about sleep. And doing a lot of sleep hacking, which has been really fun. So I wear orange glasses before I go to bed to ensure that, my circadian rhythms or whatever are in order. And all my lights in my house turn orange before bedtime to make sure that I don't have blue lights in my eyes. It's actually really ridiculous when I talk about it, but it works really well if you like sleep, which I do. But what this means is that when I wake up the next morning, I feel great. And so because the success of our business often is determined by our performance, by our level-headedness, by our ability not to get frustrated. It's really important that you kind of eat well, that you sleep well, that you take care of yourself, and also part of that is taking care of your family and making sure that they're taken care of, and a lot of that is more emotional or social than it is financial. One of the things on the Obama campaign, which was very stressful, that I did is I made sure every night I went home and had dinner with my partner, regardless of how late or stressful it was, because I knew I could work after. But that little break was just this opportunity for me to have a clear mind and to think, oh, this is really big, but there's this other thing here which I'm happy about.
Is there a magic number of hours of sleep that you recommend?
It turns out, I don't have any recommendation because I think everyone's different, but it turns out that I like to sleep between 7 and 8 hours. And that actually was really frustrating because I was hoping that I would be one of those people that only slept like 2 to 4 hours and I could get so much done, but no, it turns out that I sleep 8 hours and I'm great.
Perfect. We've got one more question for you. What's your best advice for other aspiring entrepreneurs?
My best advice. I think the thing that I have failed with most times is not launching your product fast enough, not getting out fast enough. I look at every product I've been a part of, we always wait just a little bit longer than we should. And whether it's a soft opening for a restaurant or whether it's you're just trying to, it's not quite perfect. That's the thing we always say to ourselves. And every time I've wished I would have launched earlier. And so I really think that the number one thing is just push yourself to launch your product, your store, whatever it may be. Just push yourself to do it, because until you do that, you don't actually know if it'll work. And we create this kind of world that I like to call the God users, these fictional users that are perfect. They're the ones that are going to buy everything, and so your models are all perfect. But no good plans survive contact with the enemy or the users in this world. And so you have to launch.
Launch before you're ready.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.